everyone, I'm Joana Carneiro, music director of the Berkeley Symphony.
I'm Jennifer Koh, and I'm a violinist.
And Jenny is here with me. We are about to go to our second rehearsal of the day because we are opening our season 2010-11 with Jenny playing two concertos, the Beethoven Violin Concerto and the John Adams Violin Concerto. We're very excited. And I was telling the orchestra how brave you are and how I think you're the bravest violinist I've ever met. But you think this is just exciting, not difficult?
I think this is such a great program that I'm so excited to be a part of it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't fill me with fear and terror, but those are usually the most satisfying projects, I think.
I think so too, and I think the orchestra is having a wonderful time. We just, you know, rehearsed the Beethoven in the afternoon, and it was really exciting. And the two pieces have things in common. It's just so good for me to have them side by side and chronologically, which is very important. I've been talking to the board members, the wonderful board members, and some people here in Berkeley, in how I feel this orchestra is really a 21st century orchestra in the sense that we do Adams on the second half and Beethoven on the first half. But we were talking about some of the similarities yesterday of the second movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
The chaconne. I think it's interesting how John looks back, but he makes something completely his own. So it's completely contemporary and it's completely original. But he went back to the kind of chaconne form. And I actually, and it is very similar to the slow movement of the Beethoven in a way.
Yes, I mean, variation. It's very interesting. You're right. There's something that is repeated over and over in the second movement, but he makes it so magical. And he's been talking about how this melody can stretch over time and also vertically, and he was really, really imaginative. When I think of Beethoven and then Adams, it's marvelous to me how composers reinvent the language of music, and also the possibilities today that I don't think Beethoven had. I mean, even physically,
yeah.
Even technically.
Technically, instrumentation, everything. I mean, but it's interesting because I think, in a sense, Beethoven was so revolutionary in his own way. I mean, we were talking earlier about just starting with those 4 timpani notes. It's just, and that's like the core of the entire first movement, which is huge. It's massive. And how he has just these skills, and how he stretches it. And then he just has these skills. Everything's skills. The melodic structure, skills, everything's skills. It's amazing.
And one thing that our wonderful oboe told me the other day that she never realized until recently. She's played this piece so many times. It's beautiful because the timpani really give us, that note that is the basis of the chord, but then there's this sort of lift when the wood with choir comes in that just rarely touches the tonic. It's very beautifully done. It's very it's filled with lyricism, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. And I guess we've played this piece many times. I've played it many times. I'm sure you have played it many times. But I guess we always find something different.
Find something new.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with the Adams, because it's completely revolutionary in its own way. And again, we come back to the idea of scales running throughout. It's like this, just this. It's like I actually think of it as these intricately laid out mosaic tiles, and it's always undulating, always moving, and the violin's kind of floating sometimes on top, sometimes interweaving, and it's just an amazing piece.
I think so too, and you were telling me that it makes you want to dance too. I mean, both of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, in very different ways, but yeah, John's music is just awesome.
Yes, there's just something to it, a groove, and Beethoven too, I guess, especially the third movement.
Absolutely. I actually feel it in the entire piece.
In the entire piece?
And it's actually interesting pairing it with the Adams because it brings that out even more.
Oh.
So this entire idea of like the larger beat in the bar and how we feel it like crossing over several bar lines, and, especially in the last movement, but I mean also in the first and the second.
But just from the technical point of view, and I know John, we were talking about this with John yesterday. You were saying that technically it's quite different. I mean, the means we have today, and even when we think of the piece, the orchestration and the possibilities, the instrument he uses, John uses these keyboards with samples, and that is key to making the second movement so magical to me, and also the possibilities within each instrument.
So cool.
Yeah,
it's so cool
really
throughout the whole
nice.
piece.
Yeah, yes. But for you as a performer, is your approach different? Are the challenges very different technically when you look at the two pieces?
Not so much technically. I'd say, you know, in a way, like the approach to sound is a little bit different. Because the orchestration is so different, and because the time in which they were created are so different. But I think it's also individual to the pieces, because again, if I think of John's other piece for violin, one of which is Road Movies for violin and piano, it's also a slightly different approach than one would take with the concerto. So I think it's also individual.
Well, I think this is the most fabulous program. And I'm so glad that you accepted to do this. I remember sending you the email asking if you would go for this crazy idea, and you said immediately yes. I think you responded within 5 minutes, and we're just so blessed that you want to do this, because not a lot that, you know.
I feel so thrilled that you guys are willing to do this, because I think it's great.
It's great to do it here in Berkeley, and I'm sure if you're not coming to the concert on Thursday, I'm sure we'll be doing this many, many times, because I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful program.